Hello, my little friends. I'm so delighted to be reading to you on today. My name is Reverend Moreen, and I am a pastor with one of the churches in Boston. And also, I am a previous school teacher where I work with little boys and girls who also love to read and to hear stories. The story that I'm going to read for you today is entitled Amazing Grace. The title of the story is Amazing Grace. And the author is Mary Hoffman. And the person who illustrated, who did the pictures, is Caroline Bench. Caroline Bench. So this is the book of the little girl, and her name is Grace. And because of the wonderful things that she did, they called her Amazing Grace. So I hope you enjoy this story today. All right. It's one of my favorites, and I used to love to read the story to my class. Um, so here we go. Grace was a little girl who loved stories. She didn't mind if they were read to her or told to her or made up in her own head. She didn't care if they were in books or in movies or out of Nana's long memory. Grace just loved stories. After she had heard them, and sometimes while they were still going on, Grace would act them out. And she always gave herself the most exciting part. Here we go. This is the story. Okay. Now, Grace went into battle as Joan of Arc and wove a wicked web as Anansi the spider. How many of you have heard of Anansi the spider? I used to love to read stories about Anansi the spider. She hid inside the wooden horse at the gates of Troy. She went exploring for lost kingdoms. She sailed the seven seas with a peg leg and a parrot. You say, this is great. She loved to act and do all these wonderful things. Now, let's turn the page. Most of She was Hawatha sitting by the shining big sea, and Mowgli in the backyard jungle. She liked to illustrate, and she also liked to play other characters from different countries as well. Most of all, Grace loved to sit and act out adventure stories and fairy tales. When there was no one else around, Grace played all the parts by herself. She set out to seek her fortune with no companion but her trusty cat, and found a city with streets paved in gold. Or she was Aladdin, rubbing her magic lamp to make the genie appear. Here she goes. She had a cat, and she loved to play with her cat and read to her cat. Now, let's go on. Let's see what else we can learn. Sometimes she would get Mama and Nana, that was her mother and her father, to join in when they weren't too busy. Then she was Dr. Grace, and their lives were in their hands. That's one of the reasons that they call her Amazing Grace. She had her mama and her grandmama to help in her stories. One day, Grace's teacher said they would do the play Peter Pan. How many of you have heard of the story Peter Pan? Grace knew who she wanted to be. When she raised her hand, Raj said, "You can't be Peter. That's the boy's name." But Grace kept her hand up. She wanted to be Peter Pan. "You can't be Peter Pan," whispered Natalie. "He isn't black." Oh, but Grace kept her hand up. "All right," said the teacher. "Lots of you want to be Peter Pan. So we'll have auditions next week to choose parts." She gave them lots of words to learn. When Grace got home, she seemed a little sad. What's the matter? Asked Mom. Rad said I can't be Peter Pan because I'm a girl. That just shows what Ra knows, said Ma. A little girl can be Peter Pan if she wants to. Grace cheered up. Then later she remembered something else. Natalie said, I can't be Peter Pan because I'm black, she said. Ma looked angry. But before she could speak, Nana said, it seems that Natalie is another one who don't know nothing. You can be anything you want to be, Grace, if you put your mind to it. Here's Mama, and here's her grandmama trying to cheer her up because she was sad because of what her two friends said to her. On Saturday, Nana told Grace they were going out. In the afternoon, they caught a bus and train into town. Nana took Grace to a grand theater. The sign outside read, Rosalie Wilkins in Romeo and Juliet in sparkling lights. Are we going to the ballet, Nana? Asked Grace. We are, honey. But first, I want you to look at this picture. Grace looked up and saw a beautiful ballerina in a tutu. Above the dancer, it said, Stunning New Juliet. People thought that only whites could be ballerinas, but here Grace was introduced to a young black ballerina by her grandmother. That one is little Rosie from back home in Trinidad. Said Nana. Her granny and me, we grew up together on the island. She always asking me do I want tickets to see Rosalie dance? So the time is today, and here I am, bringing you to see Rosalie in her tutu. After the ballet, Grace played the part of Juliet, dancing around her room in her imaginary tutu. I can be anything I want, she thought. So here's Grace. Now she's dancing after seeing the beautiful ballet of Rosalie. On Monday, the class met for auditions to choose who was best for the part. When it was Grace's turn to be Peter, she knew exactly what to do and all the words to say. She had been Peter Pan all the weekend. She took a deep breath and imagined herself flying. When it was time to vote, the class chose Ra to be Captain Hook and Natalie to be Wendy. There was no doubt who would be Peter Pan. Everyone voted for Grace. She was fantastic, whispered Natalie. So here we see Grace being Peter Pan because she was the best at playing the part. The play was a big success, and Grace was amazing at Peter Pan. After it was all over, she said, I feel as if I could fly all the way home. You probably could, said Ma. Yes, said Nana. If Grace could put her mind to it, she can be anything she wanted to be. And boys and girls, if you put your mind to doing something, you can be anything you want to be. So here's Grace as Peter Pan. And we know that Peter Pan is a story with a flying character. So here we have a story of Grace who became amazing because she could do anything she wanted to do. And this story is a Reading Rainbow story, and you can find it in any of your libraries. The end. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed.